Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the EUphoria podcast. That's it. We're here in this beautiful studio, totally live and in person. And more important, that even our beautiful...
This looks so cool.
Yeah, even our beautiful studio... Wow, it's so good to be back. Our beautiful studio is the fact that I am joined once again, triumphantly, by my incredible co-host and analyst of the year, none other than Caedrel.
Okay.
Bro, I have to give you that prop because
don't oversell it. Don't oversell it.
I'm not trying to oversell it, but you have to understand. I think I can, as a member of the community, and also me, person who works with you all the time, I think I can reflect the community perspective of relief that you have returned. Because, like, I don't know, man. I'm pretty fond of what we got going on here, so I'm happy you're back.
It was
rocky there for a minute. There was a vitality coaching.
It was a
offer.
rocky. It was a rocky off season. Let's just leave it at that. It was. It's one for the ages. I'm sure many people have had some whack off seasons. I've definitely experienced mine, but I'm here. I'm back, and I'm glad you introduced me with such kind words, my fellow Didi. I'll say that your banger song came out yesterday.
Thank you.
It was an absolute cracker. I love the bars, spitting straight fires.
Thank you. Oh, brother, it's good to be back. If you're interested in following him, this is at Caedrel, at Daniel Drakos, at LEC if you want LEC updates. And as always, the EUphoria podcast is available on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Now, if you cannot see us, if you're not in YouTube land, the thing we're talking about in the studio is a joke. We're both currently from home, but through the power of modern technology, it will appear to all of those on YouTube as if we are seamlessly back in the studio. You'll notice no difference in quality. It's like we're in the studio.
This is not scuffed.
Not scuffed at all. So yeah, brace yourself. It's going to hopefully sound good as we both got some pretty nice microphones at home, and that'll work out. Today, however, we're going to be doing a couple things because it was a big offseason for you and it was a big offseason for the entire league, Caedrel. We're going to be looking at all the new rookies who have joined and predicting who will be Rookie of the Split, as well as predicting who will be MVP. A lot of returning names as well to talk about there. And since it's our first episode back, we're going to be doing a tier list in classic EUphoria fashion.
Of course.
Which is like...
Gotta get those clicks.
We need to clickbait. And also, it's literally the best way to talk about all 10 teams. Like, it is. It's the easiest way to talk about all 10 teams. And it's I think it's interesting. I always dig it. So let's hope people are fired up, are keen. Let's jump into it, brother.
I'm roaring to go, dude. My setup at home is so cool. I got a green screen, I got lights, I got cameras, I got action.
The worst part about the whole having a baller setup, right, is that like we are going to all this length with these lights and these cameras and these green screens and the like 2 tons of friggin' equipment that got shipped to me in the last day to make this happen, just so you can't see the 2 tons of friggin' equipment.
That's so true. What the hell? All this technology to hide the technology.
We're getting deep here. 3 deep, 5 me.
That's how you invent the camouflage when it comes to like the military. You have to have like the soldier wrapped in green screens reflecting the background behind them so they're invisible. That's basically what the cusp of this technology is, right?
This is the pinnacle of military
in 50
technology.
years' time, we'll look back on the EUphoria podcast of us hiding our technology and they'll think, damn, we have camouflage now.
You heard it here, militaries of the world. The green morb suit is the future. You guys are behind.
Just blending in with every terrain.
Yeah, the military equivalent of we'll fix it in post. We'll see. We'll probably never know if that's actually the technology that's used until 20 years down the line. Maybe it's already being used, but we'll find out. For now, LEC. Caedrel, this was like the fattiest offseason we've had in a long time.
Fattiest.
Fatty. This was a
Sorry, it's early morning. I love that adjective.
Yeah, this was a chunky off season. This off season could put it away. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a lot. And I'm curious, like
this is one for the ages, isn't it?
It is one for the ages. Like what was like the craziest move of the offseason for you? Before we get into rookies and MVP, like what was just straight up the weirdest, wildest thing that happened in the offseason?
It was Reckless to K-Corp, wasn't it? It was so random, like loads of different opinions come out as to why Reckless isn't working in G2. Those Reddit threads about Yankos and stuff like this, and that he's not going to be on the team. And people were whispering around social media like, yeah, Reckless is not going to be on G2 next year. And everyone was like, dude, shut up. Like, this is a star player, right? One of the best players in Europe. And yeah, it didn't work, of course. But maybe they'll run it back. Maybe they'll do a few other changes here. Was Reckless the problem? And then all of a sudden it's like, Reckless is no longer part of G2. Reckless is no longer part of the LEC. He's not actually in a major region whatsoever. And then he's in an ERL in a French team. And props to him, like, he is popping off across social media. The funniest thing is he embraced the meme. This was the best part when he tweeted, "And I won't." This had me sold. When he had the "And I will" in G2 win Worlds, and now he can't even get to Worlds, and he just tweets "And I won't." Like, I was on board. Embrace the meme. Everyone's happy.
Honestly, like, he's a good sport for making the most of it, and he's been super good about like communicating with the French audience, and obviously it's doing well for him. The LFL audience is out of this world, second to none. Superliga coming close, but at the end of the day, LFL has got that unlocked, and I'm excited to see what Reckless does on K Corp, to see what that means for EU Masters, because I'm a big EU Masters fan in general. I think it's a super cool thing. It is really weird though, because he's kind of like, now Reckless is the Fabby of LEC. I don't know how it happened, but like, this man is now the gatekeeper, and like, if you want a spot on an LEC team, you have to go through Reckless, which just feels like such a weird change in career. You went from climbing the summit to being the bouncer at the door, which is such an odd position to be in.
It's nuts, isn't it? Because, like, first of all, when they went on stage in their show match versus Koi, the stadium was going crazy. Like, when Rex was announced, he was, of course, the last player to come out, and it was incredibly hype. But then also, if you look at the actual league he's playing in, the LFL, before we talk about the LEC, quick hit, LFL is actually just a mini LEC. No joke. You look at some of the players in that league. You look at the AD carry pool alone. You have like Reckless, Crownshot, Jeskla, Woolite. You've got top tier AD carries going up against each other. Every role is pretty much stacked. You've got a mid laner who was I can't remember his name, but he was part of Damwon Gaming, which is now an LFL team. You've got Cody Sun in an LFL team. You've got Haru and Tempt in the NLC. Haru was on the World's winning roster, and now he's in NLC. Like, there's some nuts things happening in the offseason, not only in the LEC, but like, our ERLs right now are stacked. I'm worried for everyone, because everyone seems to think that they're going to win EU Masters. Like, K-Corp and all these teams are really strong, and Koi are massively publicated, and like, they have huge brands. But you look at some of these LFL teams, man, I'm telling you, they're stacked. Vitality Academy, I can go on for days. Misfits, like, it's nuts.
I think the thing that makes me so excited about it is not just how cool it is for the LFLs, but also how cool it will eventually be for the LEC. Because when competition is that good in the LFL, it means the players that we're securing from teams like K-Corp and Misfits Premier and anyone else, we'll use the word securing. I'm not sure how all those negotiations go. Are going to be so much better. Like, the quality is just going to go up. And I mean, obviously, like, the LFL and EU Masters, they can all stand on their own. They don't need to be looked at as just a way to like feed up into the LEC. But like, as an LEC pundit, hell yeah, give me more insane players coming out of ERLs every year. That hypes me up.
And I think now winning the LFL, if you win the LFL, damn, you're a hell of a good team. Like, I probably bet you by the end of the spring split, at least, the winner of the LFL, that team could probably beat a lot of the LEC teams, I would say, because of how stacked the LFL is. Well, obviously bottom half of the LEC, but I still think that they would take them out. So I'm hyped. I'm going to be watching the LFL on my second monitor a lot of the time when it's on, because some of those games are going to be really interesting to watch.
And also, you're just doing your due diligence, because half those players are going to be in LEC or in EU Masters, and I think that's just like, it's cool. On the more immediate LEC side of things, I think the thing that hypes me the most is the return of both EUphoria and Perks to the same team, to Vitality, this Vitality super team that Caedrel may or may not have almost coached. That hypes me up. I'm fired up for what that team could be. I'm also fired up because super teams worldwide explode just as often as they succeed. And like, either way, this is going to be like, whether it's like exciting because it's a train wreck and we can't look away, or exciting because it's like, super powerful, super dominant super team. We'll see how many times I can use the word super in a single sentence. Either way, I'm hyped for this Vitality lineup, to be honest.
Super Saiyan.
I like that.
Super Dragon Ball, Super Dragon Ball.
Yeah, are they the Krillin, or are they like Yamcha, or are they like the Goku Vegeta? We gotta find out.
Yeah, then you've got also like Fnatic and stuff, Goku versus Vegeta, maybe you got some storylines from Dragon Ball or something, but I think Vitality is like, you can't deny it's stacked, right? self-made on Vitality last year, was single-handedly hauling that team through playoffs best of 5 against Fnatic. If you watch that series, he almost won the entire series. Alphari is obviously one of the best laning top laners in the world, or in the West, sorry. I'm not going to say the world, because obviously we need to see more of it at the World Championship, see what top laners are like in the East, in a sense. Perks, the GOAT of EU. Karzi was slightly inconsistent, I think, in 2021, but he did have, for sure, his moments, and he was popping off. And Labrov is one of the most hyped supports. Labrov's that player where it's like, he's so good, he just needs a good team. He just needs a good team. He's so goddamn good. And now he finally has a really good team, right? So I think this team will succeed. I think they'll come out the gates swinging, and they'll probably be, I expect, the strongest team coming out of the gates. Because, I don't know, they just have, yes, they have such strong personalities which can implode a team sometimes. But if the vibes are always good outside the game, and I think players like Karzi and Perks always bring good vibes when things are going good vibes will always be brought. So I'm pretty sold on that team.
Yeah, and we can talk.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and I'm excited about them too. We can talk a little bit more about them, and especially like Labrov, who hilariously for me, and it sounds like maybe for you, is like the most interesting part of that team because he's a guy that we've been a little excited about. He's had some of these incredible Thresh games, some Bard games where he's really looked like great, but obviously the team has always struggled. So now we get to see how high the Labrov ceiling goes. But that said, shifting our attention to the newer members of the league, not the returning members, not the super big veterans. Let's talk a little bit about the rookies. We've got a number of them. Dior, and I'm going to butcher every name until I figured it all out. Dior on Astralis is a mid laner. Flakked on G2. Targamas is not a rookie, fun fact, but is obviously still young to the league. Mad, Reeker, formerly RKR. Unforgiven, who's a bit of a mystery to a lot of people. We have Shlatan on Misfits and Mersa, as well as Certus and ex-Maddie. Syncroft also in that not a rookie, but kind of a rookie category. So these are the guys. This is a huge rookie class. Most of these people are from the top 2 LFL teams, which is Misfits, Premier, and K-Corp. Only a few people are like coming out of nowhere. Obviously, RKR was a little bit hyped. Unforgiven really came out of nowhere. Dior, super young talent in terms of competitive experience, but a lot of new names. Caedrel, who are you actually hyped about in the rookie class?
Ooh, there's a couple I'm hyped about. Like, for example, Mersa. I was looking at this guy early last year. He was rank 1 for quite a long time. And rank 1 as support is always kind of impressive to me because it just shows it in solo queue. Like, your map reads are always really good. I think being really high elo in support in solo queue is always a good sign. So I was kind of hyped on Mersa. But I think for me, as a jungle main, it's Shlatan. I've been watching this guy's games, and he is always like Flame Horizon in a way. This guy, his pathing is always super efficient. He's always really high up in farm on the enemy jungler. Like, I think he has one of the craziest CSDs in like EU Masters, right? When this year in summer. I've jungled against him a lot in the years, and he's always that player where it's like he was on the cusp of LEC. I think last year as well. It's so weird to say last year is 2021. I can't believe it's 2022. This is just blowing my mind every time I think about it. Like, dude, where's 2020? Dude, where's 2020 at? Where's the last 2 years gone? Was it 2021? Last year already? God damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super hyped for Shlatan. He was on Misfits Academy. Now he's on Misfits main team. Obviously, Misfits losing Razork it's kind of hard to replace, I think, because he was probably the MVP of the team in 2021. But Shlatan definitely a top tier replacement.
Yeah, I think big shoes to fill, certainly in terms of what Misfits need from him. And the overall goal of this is we want to predict a little bit looking forward for Rookie of the Split. So in that same vein, Shlatan, do you have enough faith in this guy? You're like, this guy right here is going to be Rookie of the Split?
Ooh, yeah, Rookie of the Split, I would say, is probably going to be Shlatan. I think, to me, Misfits overall is almost like a dark horse for me. Going into spring. I think Shlatan's a huge driving factor. Shlatan's definitely a player where you will have to play for jungle. Like, some teams function in a way where jungle can play for you and you can play for jungle. And now that can also be very champion dependent. Like, you know, if I'm a, we'll use the term carry jungler in a sense right now, and I play Jarvan, then obviously you're not going to play for jungle because my champion, there's no point in playing for a Jarvan. But if I'm playing things like Hecarim, Graves, Lee Sin, Lilia, these kind of champions need resources. I think that's what you'll see coming out of Shlatan. Now, he has shown a lot of flexibility. I think he's got games on like Zac and Volibear and things like this, which are champions which can play for team. And it also will be meta dependent. We've seen some LPL right now. We've seen a lot of Lee Sins, and we have seen a lot of Jarvans as well. I think he'll be flexible. He should be able to slot into every role, but he's definitely more favored towards the carry jungle oriented playstyle.
Yeah, and I'm glad that summer was at least somewhat more interesting in terms of jungle pool, because spring for most of the world was that Udyr, Volibear was the Elyoya pick that kind of came out, but it was that kind of, I don't want to say let's call it brain dead jungle meta, or is that like super linear jungle meta where like you like me if I know the difference between like an A tier A tier Udyr player and an S tier Udyr player, you know, like, so thank God like summer had like the Xin Zhao, Viego, Lee Sin, so we could actually see like, oh, do these guys have hands, or are they just going to take Ghost on Udyr and just run at people? You know what I mean?
I will say, like, carry junglers, like Hecarim, for example, are full clear bots. You play for jungle, you get him crabs, you get him camps, you get early objectives, and you try to get him on, like, get a couple kills here on dives and stuff like this. But I think champions like Jarvan and Volibear reward creativity, right? If you're full clearing on Jarvan Volibear and you're 0-0 at minute 10, then obviously you've made a mistake in the game. And when you watch Chinese junglers, I was watching yesterday RNG's games, like when Wei is playing Jarvan and things like this, the creativity he has is just really impressive. You know, just red-blue, walk into the enemy jungle. Just see what happens, you know? Just see what happens. I have bot prio, I'll just walk in, start a fight. Oh, we got a triple kill, level 4. Oh, great. Perfect. But then there's some Jarvans who are carry jungle players who just kind of teeter towards, I could go for this gank, but it's a bit too risky. I'll full clear anyway. And then, that top dive. Yeah, I'll full clear again anyway. And now you're Jarvan level 6, 0-0-0 at minute 8 or something. And yeah.
You're having a great time being a tank, just sitting there, being an engaged. But yeah, trust me, as someone who played Jarvan because he's super OP for the first few ganks and frequently didn't get a gank off, there's a reason that I spent a lot of time hard stuck in low elo. Like you got to make stuff happen, you know. Maybe not as much as like an Elise where it's literally like live or die, but definitely a champion that needs to make things happen. So outside of Shlatan, or Shlatan. Oh man, I'm gonna butcher so many names. It's hard.
Who are you hyped for?
I'm really excited for Reeker, because I think that I have a lot of faith. This is almost like entirely because I have so much faith in Mac, who's come through as like one of the big coaches. But this guy showed a decent amount of potential in Prime League. I thought he was super solid. I don't think he's by any means a crazy pickup, but I don't think he's the immediate like easy, hey, let's just look at K-Corp, let's look at Misfits Premier and see what we can get, in the case of players like Sertus or X-Maddie or Syncroft. But like him on a team like Mad, paired with the jungler like Elyoya, again, like this is a guy who I think very easily could win Rookie of the Split, partially because I think he's just so set up for success. And I think unlike Shlatan, who were like, this is a guy who maybe needs to get played around, we're going to have to see how he fits into Misfits, it's like Reeker can just do his mid lane thing and trust that Elyoya will have his back. Because you talk about creative pathing, and Elyoya is like that guy who was like coming in at Volibear level 6, diving towers every single time. And that sounds like, to me, between Elyoya and a solid coaching staff, you got one of the strongest standing jungle support duos. Like, you are set up for success. So if any of the potential that we saw in Prime League like comes true for Reeker, I think this dude is going to have a pop-off season. Plus, like, in a world of, you know, kind of Twisted Fate meta, and don't get me wrong, he did play a lot of Twisted Fate. We got a lot of Silas. We got a lot of Echo from this guy. We got a lot of, like, more kind of slightly outside of meta picks, or maybe not immediate S tier picks and answers. And that was kind of what, like, that's what hypes me up about this guy, is that, like, if his champion pool's deep and him and Elyoya are both willing to make crazy stuff happen, I think this is the guy who's, like, pretty set up for a montage season. I'm not going to lie. Like, feels like time to shine for a mid laner.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, just off the bat, what I know, Reeker was, a lot of LEC teams wanted Reeker. Like, he was very high priority on the market as a player. And yeah, rightly so. He had a fantastic year, I think. Overall, his playstyle is, I like to talk about playstyles a lot because I like to talk about in-game stuff. His playstyle is very selfless. You know, he'll play global champions, insta-lock, blind pick. He'll go down 10 CS and he'll roam around the map and he'll give up towers. He'll give up everything to make sure his team's ahead. Does it mean that he can't play carries? Well, no, we've seen, you know, control majors, Syndra, Victor, things like this, Orianna. He looks pretty confident on those, but the meta in mid right now is just a little bit up in the air, where you've got people playing like Corki and Vex, LeBlanc. You've got TFs, Gallios, and Rises appearing. You've got globals, you've got assassins, you've got control mages, you've got Victors. So the meta is in mid is kind of like you can pick whatever, really. Now, obviously, to an extent, right? We've seen even Renekton mid still being picked. So I think he'll be fine. I think the current mid meta rewards flexibility, and I think Reeker has a lot of flexibility, whereas some mid laners are sticking to this one style of like, I can only play assassins, I can only play roaming champs, and I want to lose lane, I can only play control mages. He's really can tick any box, which is he's like a jack of all trades. Just a question of like, is he a master of none?
Yeah, I mean that's an excellent question, and I think that the thing that I like that you highlighted there is that like his kind of playing away from his own lane style, and like obviously I don't want to praise a player for having like negative CSD in lane, but what he does have that balances that out is insanely high kill participation in the early game, usually super active early game, spends a lot of time with his jungler, and doesn't actually spend that much time in his lane. So when you look at his 3 most played, which is like Sylas, Twisted Fate, Rise, all champions who have pretty reliable setup CC for ganks and early plays, like I feel like that kind of play style early in a season is always going to be super rewarded. And I think we'll have to see, like I can see a world where this guy is forced to play control mages, and not that individually he can't play control mages, but that like really leads him to suffer. Cause like in my head, the paper perfect dream, right, is like him and Elyoya both playing champions who can do stuff early game. Like I guess like Twisted Fate Graves is like the very common example from kind of end of last season. Like that kind of thing where you have someone who's providing damage, someone who has to set up CC, and you can just start fighting super early in the game. But you're right, in the meta that's flexible, like there's going to be games where you have to just play Victor and wait for people to walk into you, which just like definitely tempers my expectations for how like explosive this guy's actually going to be able to be.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be the supportive player for Elyoya. But Elyoya has shown like he can play carries. He's also really flexible. This Mad Lions team as a whole is just a lot of question marks, because you had Humanoid Karzi, who are like the vibe bringers. They look like the ones who are always initiating jokes and just bringing insanely good vibes on stage. You know, Karzi even kissed Elyoya after they won one game, right? So the vibe outside the game really carried Mad Lions, I think. Through tough times, if they were losing, there was just so much positivity in the room, I imagine. And, you know, if they lose a game or they're even in-game, you hear their comms and they get aced at minute 10. They're like, well, that sucks. I'm going to go bot, guys. Let's just see what happens. I mean, you want to just flip Baron? It sounds pretty funny to flip Baron. I mean, you saw it. Was in their finals, I think it was, where they're almost winning games when they shouldn't against Fnatic. They're coming back from like 10k and they almost win, but then Karsi gets caught and dies. But anyway, now you've taken out those vibes and you put in Reeker and Unforgiven, who I don't know what their personalities are like, but they're joining a team that just won back-to-back titles, right? And they still have 3 of those members. So they're probably coming in with their mouth closed and they're probably listening a lot. I'm trying to get as much information as I can and soak it up and become the best player possible to fit into the role. Alternatively, maybe they come in with strong opinions, or they come in with good vibes, maybe they're quiet. I think what Mad Lions had going for them was so perfect. I just hope they can continue that. And I hope the coaching staff can just bring the best out of Unforgiven and Reeker in terms of like, not only in-game, but out of game, right? They feel comfortable, they feel happy, they want to crack a joke when they get solo killed or they die or something happens, right? It's inevitable. Something bad's going to happen eventually. It's just how you deal with it.
Yeah, and I think Unforgiven is the big mystery of kind of this rookie class. There's a lot of people with a lot of potential and a lot of tape where you can really see them pop off, and Unforgiven is one of the players who has that least amount of that tape. Not that he hasn't had good games, just that he's like, compared to a lot of these other players, not someone who has been in the ERL scene for a super huge amount of time. Not a guy who's had a super huge amount of like stage games, at least that I have VODs of. So that's the question. I did talk to Mac, and Mac like went over a lot of the things that he was looking for in the team, and he talked a lot about like the kind of personality fit angle that he was looking for, and he basically just believes in the guy as an individual player, just paraphrasing the stuff that he sent to me, and he pairs super well with Kaiser, and that was kind of the main thing that he's going for, and I'll take Mac's work for that, right? Until proven otherwise, I'll be given the benefit of the doubt and say, all right, cool, I'm expecting a strong, pair as a lane. And maybe like the best thing that Unforgiven can do for Kaiser is survive on his own. Who knows? We'll have to see how much of this Lux support is going to keep showing up in meta. Please, not that much. Please back to engage supports, please.
Dude, no TP bot. Xaxa. A TP thing was, I mean, TP's not dead. TP will still be in the game. Like, it's still really strong in just 14 minutes of Xaxa lane phase, which is, I think it's kind of nice. It brings out more range spots. But the last thing I would say about Matt is just the coaching staff. Huge prop to that coaching staff. They've scouted so many different players that fit into so many different teams, right? Elyoya is the standout for this year, but also like Arome and Shadow and things like this, who were even Kaiser and Karzi, because I think they came off of Big at the time. I can't remember the specific team they came off, but they came off of ERL teams straight in. Elyoya didn't even make group stage of EU Masters, throw him in. Some of these players are the same, right? Some of these players who were actually brought into the LEC didn't actually find much success in the ERLs. You think of Targamas, yes, he was very successful, but there's other players like Mersa who didn't even make playoffs, and now he's in the LEC, right? So playoffs in the LFL in summer. They finished like 7th, but now he's in the LEC. So it's all like a case of, when you're a coaching staff, do I scout the player who won EU Masters? Is that really the best players in their respective roles? Or I'll dig a little bit deeper. And Mad Lions is always that team that, put that extra effort and time into just digging deep and finding talent that's like maybe a little bit under the radar.
Yeah, and I think that, again, it's easy to have faith in that system when you see a player like Elyoya and his meteoric rise. But we'll get to touch on Matt a little bit more as we kind of shift our attention to the tier list. We were originally going to pick MVPs now too. Who's going to be the MVP of the entire season? Now, it's a difficult thing, especially if you're just joining us, because we haven't talked about all the rosters. So I vote we save it till after the tier list and we talk about it then, because then we've hit out all the 10 teams. We can talk about it. We can look at potential MVP candidates as we go through. Because when I was writing this, I was like, oh yeah, it's easy. And now I'm realizing if you're just listening to this, if you're just coming back into the world of LEC, then like you might not even know who is on each of these teams. Which if you do know already, like shout out to you, dedication. But there's still going to be some people who are like, just now catching up. So I vote we shift our attention to the tier
They've been
list.
on holiday. It's been Christmas, New Year's, a little bit of drinking, a little bit of eating. LEC can wait till January. Oh, LEC starts this week. What's the deal? What's the gossip, Drakos?
Okay, so rumor has it that Caedrel. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Where do you want to? So here's how it's going to work. We have a tier list.
I think bottom to top.
We have 5. So I've thought about this, and guys, I'm going to level with you. You're Euphoria fans. You've seen us make a lot of these tier lists. We kind of botch this every year so that we spend like 30 minutes on a team people aren't that excited about and like 5 minutes on the favorites at the end of the thing. So my vote, Mr. Lamont, is that you pick a team you're excited to talk about. We rank them and we go to the next team, and we can adjust the tier list later.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
See the tier list behind us, because I don't want to spend, if we go 10-1, I don't want to spend 15 minutes on the 10th place team. Like,
let's
sometimes, yeah. All right. So pick a team. You can kick us off.
I can start.
Yep.
You know who I'm going to start with? I'm going to start with XL. Yeah, baby.
Let's go.
Genuinely think that this might be the year for XL. I have 2 dark horses in the LEC, and when I say dark horse, my definition of dark horse, I think the definition of dark horse vary. My definition of dark horse is they will find a lot of success where people might not think they will find success. Not necessarily win the split, I just think that they will succeed more than they did last year. My first dark horse is XL, so I'm going to put XL in B tier.
Okay.
Off the bat. I think they'll make playoffs this year, and I think they will be top 6 in the league. I have a lot of faith in that jungle support that we saw in summer. I genuinely have a lot of faith. I think Nukeduck is reliable. I think he's good. I think Finn was done dirty, honestly. I mean, on Rogue, of course, he was the weak link, but I think CLG doesn't count. He is a very good carry top. He's always consistent solo queue, good mechanics. I think this is probably the best version of XL we've ever seen. And Patrick, I think Patrick is still, I don't want to say underrated, because everyone still thinks Patrick's good, but he still does fly under the radar a lot when it comes to best AD carries in the league. I think he is a solid top 5, top 4 maybe AD carry in the league. They have a very strong bot lane. Their mid laner is very flexible. He's a veteran. Yes, Nukeduck, it's the year of the duck. I'm not going to say that, right? I think Nukeduck, is he past his prime? I don't know, but I still think he is a reliable, strong, good mid laner, and that's something you need when you have players like Marcoon, who will carry games for you, Finn, who will always want to play a carry top, and Patrick, you can always play for or put on weak side. What do you need if you have that many carry potential players or reliability players? You need a rock. I think Nukeduck's a pretty good rock to have in the mid, especially in a meta where roaming is rewarded, roaming champs is rewarded, control mages are rewarded. You can play whatever. He has a champion ocean. Drop him on anything, he'll be fine. So I actually think XL. I'll say also one thing. I don't know if this is a hot take. I think 2022 LEC, I think the top half got stronger, and I think the bottom half got weaker. And I think XL dodged both of those, and they're just in the middle.
Yeah. I think, okay. I agree. I think we lot a lot. This is like obviously could be very much a bigger discussion and something maybe we can hit on as we get into later weeks, depending on the level of play we see domestically. But we lost a lot of really, really good players to North America. Like losing both Hansama and Whippo is a big deal. Losing Inspired is a big deal. Like there are a lot of good players that we lost, and a lot of the players who have stayed and a lot of the players who have promoted do not have that immediate like vote of confidence, I think. And rightly so. And there's a lot of players who I'm excited for, but I'm not going to tell you that we have like that Shlatan, as much as you expect him to do well, is the next Inspired right off the bat. You know what I mean? Like we'll see if he gets there, But it's hard to look at the LEC and not say, okay, well, we've taken a bit of hit, at least in terms of reliable talent. That said, on Excel, I agree completely that they are one of the beneficiaries of this, of so many new rookies and so many teams making huge shuffles. The fact that they've changed one player is massive for their success this split. And it's hard because I kind of like, Excel has failed us so many times that it's like hard to believe in this organization, but I don't think I should let that like perception affect this team of 5 players. And so I'm skeptical about Finn. I agree we should write off CLG, but as you highlighted, if we write off CLG, the last split that we have was the Rogue split, where like, remember that was Rogue and Mad Lions kind of being the new kids on the block contesting at Worlds when we had 4 slots, and it was both Arome and Finn who were kind of the weak links for their teams that did make some of those games super difficult. So I want to see growth from Finn, no doubt, but you're right that bottom side is super solid. And I don't know, it's funny to me because NukeDuck and Patrick almost seem like birds of a feather in the sense that they're both these players that we know are super good that have like not really reliably gotten the chance to show it. And it just feels like they're always a bridesmaid, never a bride, you know, like never are they going to get their chance, center spotlight. And I think that like in a world where everyone's trying to figure stuff out, the fact that NukeDuck, Patrick, Marcoon, Advian have all been on the same team is going to be huge. And remember, like after week 4, when we got Marcoon and Advian in, Excel actually looked like a playoffs contender. It was only like some last minute surges from Astralis, some crazy games that like ultimately like knocked them out of that place. And of course, the lackluster performance in the first few weeks that like held them back from that position in the past.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I mean, they've always finished 7th. And just going back to what I said about the top half being strong and the bottom half being weaker, if you just look across the board, like the teams who are contesting playoffs, right? Vitality is now a first, second place team. I think you'd agree, right? Top 3. Mm-hmm. So they're not really middle of the pack anymore. Misfits lost arguably their best player, Razork. He's now on the top of the pack with Fnatic. Schalke lost Broken Blade. He went to G2. He's now at the top of the pack, right? These are top 3, top 4 teams. So the middle/bottom of the pack lost a lot of really good players on teams that were slightly weaker. Mm-hmm. And now that they've lost them, they've invested more in rookies or kind of other talent. So I think that just hurts the middle of the pack more, whereas XL didn't really lose anyone. They kept NukeDuck, they kept Patrick, they kept Advienne, they kept Marcoon, they finished 7th. These are still decently good players that can probably crack a top 6, but now you've just added Finn, where Kreis was like this inconsistency. Now you need to hope Finn is a reliability carry. I think things came together for them pretty well in the offseason. So yeah, I think they're a middle of the pack team, B tier.
Yeah, I think that 5th, 6th is kind of where I'm expecting them to finish right now, if I had to put a placing on it. Obviously, we're predicting right now in this tier list for kind of start of season strength, and we'll see how that develops over the course of the split. Because a lot of these teams, even if we do initially expect them to not do very well, could develop very quickly. That is kind of always the question of spring split, is kind of this arms race of development, looking ahead even more towards summer and towards Worlds. So it's going to be a big, big season. Next up, after Excel, I'm debating if I want to go to the top. Let's go to the top of the table. Let's talk about Vitality, because we've been
okay,
dropping a little bit of Vitality here and there, and I think that we should.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk too much about them until now.
Yeah, so here's my debate. I can't decide if we even had. It's like, God, I think it's so hard because there's obviously one other team up here. The only question I have are Vitality S tier or a Vitality A tier, and I don't have the answer. But let's discuss, and maybe we can find out together where they should be. But what I'll say is we have 2 of the best laners and best players that Europe has ever produced in Alphari and Perks. And maybe you guys don't feel like Alphari deserves that title, but I think Alphari is still one of the most incredible talents.
Oh yeah, in lane he deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now paired with, again, another one of our top junglers in Selfmade. A guy who, as you highlighted earlier, like did so much work in keeping Vitality competitive as a team coming out of last season, alongside, again, the back-to-back champion in Carzzy and a promising young talent in Labrov. This is the quintessential super team. Now, you could talk about, like the entire top side is full of strong personalities, and I haven't worked with any of these guys.
Yep.
This is all stuff we hear or see or hear talked about. These are 3 very strong personalities. I'm not going to tell you that Alphari benched Jet, but I do think that narrative is funny. But like, we have to see. So there is that. And I'm not going to say that there's like a lot of validity to any of the narratives of like, oh, this team could like explode at any moment. I think we have to wait to see. But I think it would be bad to talk about Vitality without talking about the potential for strong personalities to like divide a team rather than bring it together.
What I will say about this strong personality discussion, as much as I think it's merited, like Alphari, Selfmade, Perks, all strong personalities, who's got the I won't say street cred, who's got the achievements to back his word? Perks, right?
Yeah.
Who's been to quarterfinals at Worlds and actually taken a team there as a mid laner? Perks. Who's been to finals, semifinals? Perks, not only does he have the achievements to back up his word, he also has the balls to speak up, I think. So as much as there's 3 strong personalities up there, I think no matter what, the final choice will always come down to Perks, just because of those 2 things. And I think Alphari and Selfmade are players who respect Perks enough. I think Perks is a player they respect enough to be like, actually, you know what, you're right. And that argument won't turn into, no, you're this, no, you're that, I think this, I think that. So I think the 3 strong personalities are the top side, but I think Perks will be the dictating factor behind those 3 personalities. To me, Vitality, you just look across the roles specifically, individually, just look at across all individual roles. I think you've got at least top 2, minimum top 3 players in every single role. It's just a case of, can you bring them together?
Yeah, I think to be fair, I think we're very excited about Lebrov, but I think Lebrov is a guy that will have to prove himself for that spot. And it's easy just to say Kaiser Hill is saying, and then I guess Lebrov is third. But I think there will be some people contesting, and he is going to have to back that up. Because while we both agree that there's a huge amount of potential there, we still haven't, we're giving him the benefit of the doubt because we believe that this guy is good for so long. But we do still have to see that come to fruition. I don't want to celebrate him before he's actually earned that on stage with this team. But even without that, even if we say Lebrov is just top 5, the rest of this team is so freaking stacked that short of one of these personality disasters that people are going to speculate about, there's no way this team isn't top 4. It's just minimum top 4, no matter what, and probably top 2 is the expectation that I would have for them straight up. Yeah.
Just going on to the Lebrov point, I think the only sad part about this team is Lebrov might get a little bit overshadowed in terms of publicity. I imagine he's gonna have good games, but he's gonna get overshadowed a little bit by the other players. Selfmade popping off, Carsey popping off, Perks, Alphari popping off, and everyone's just like, oh yeah, Lebrov's on that roster. Oh yeah. So that's the kind of sad truth of it. But if you watch the playoffs, Selfmade and Lebrov were doing so much work for that team. Lebrov's Alistar, I can remember, was so 1v9 in some of the LEC summer. So yeah, he's a player, again, we can't celebrate him as a top 2, top 3, top 4 player or whatever right now. Perhaps, I think it's definitely there though. The signs are there, and now he has a roster to show it. So as much as he will go under the radar, I'm going to keep my eye on him for sure, because I think that I want to see if he can find success on a team that's actually really strong across the board and can facilitate him, and he can facilitate them back. So I'm excited for this team. I think this is an S tier team. If this team fails, then I don't know what a super team is anymore. When you take the arguably best laning Western top laner, the arguably best player of all time, Selfmade, he's Selfmade, an AD carry who just won back-to-back championships and most hype support. Maybe I'm going too hard on this team, but anything but top 2 would be a disappointment.
I agree, but can we line this up with what we said about G2 last season when they picked up Reckless? We're is there any way that this team can possibly lose? And then they just sucked. They just weren't that good. They were just super mediocre. Yeah. So I'm with you. I'm with you. But I'm just saying on paper, I have no reason to doubt this. But I've said that about just about every super team that's ever been conceived. And yet always there's that chance. So we'll see. We'll wait and we'll see. I'm also super excited.
What I will say is, my only question I have for you is, if you're a Vitality fan or you're an LEC fan, and Vitality, you see the Vitality roster, what do you think would satisfy your this is a super team requirements? Is it quarterfinals at Worlds? Is it back-to-back championship? What would make you say, damn, that actually is a super team and they're finding success?
I think you need... It's hard because I think that the expectations are so high. It's really hard. Because I'm immediately thinking of international. I'm not even thinking of... I'm thinking... When I think domestic, I'm it's finals and it has to be a good best of 5. You don't have to win, but it has to be a damn close best of 5. You know what I mean? And then Worlds out of groups. And that's insane pressure to put on a team. Because ultimately, yes, all these players are super accomplished, but that doesn't mean that they've instantly done all the work they need to do as a team. So I feel bad putting that high of expectations on them, but that's what it means to be a super team in EU now. And that's even that compared to the expectations we had for EU teams after G2 won MSI or Worlds 2019, where we got 3 teams out of groups. That doesn't feel crazy to just be you need to get out of groups, you need to be in finals.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because Perks made top 8 at Worlds with C9 and no one really expected it, but they did it, right? But it was never really a super team. And then you look at Vitality and you're well, if they made top 8 at Worlds, if they got knocked out in quarters, is that a super team? Is this really This is what we're going to call it. But then again, the next step is top forward worlds, of course, right? And when you're having 8 Eastern teams, 4 from the LPL and 4 from the LCK, 2 other EU teams and things like this, and you say you need to make top forward worlds with this roster minimum, be able to like merit the worth of a super team, because G2 have made finals, Fnatic have made the finals, G2 made semis, Fnatic have made semis, right? This is I think the benchmark is actually semi-finals at an international event.
I will say that I think that draw can affect a lot there, right? And we've seen EU teams get to semifinals through very easy opponents. I'll say that I think you need to have a competitive best of 5 against an LPL team or an LCK team. And I think I want them to win, and that's great. That's a great achievement. But if you go to 5 games against former world champions or, a DK or, whoever, I think, and it's like a good series, kind of like Matt had at MSI, that is enough for me to be like, damn, good job. Like we can be proud of that. I think, again, 2019, I would have wanted you to win that series because G2 were beating Korean teams, like just keep beating T1 over and over again, So, but now, as clearly LPL and LCK continue to level up, and I felt like we were a bit behind this year. Yeah, to have a competitive best of 5 against one of those teams, that's good enough for me. But even that, we're getting so far ahead of ourselves, right? We've already selected Vitality as a potential world representative, and there's still 9 other teams that they have to go through. And that's huge. That's a lot of pressure on these players. Hopefully they can just take it a week at a time, because if they're sweating worlds already, they might, get sunk in LEC. As you can't look ahead. You have to look at the opponent in front of you,
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think of this roster, just final thoughts, it's almost like a train. And the train's probably getting faster and faster and faster throughout the year because they're probably getting better and better and better. But the second that train falls off the tracks, it's never getting back on, I think that might be some of the kind of thoughts that people have about this team. So I'm interested to see what happens. Is it going to implode? Is it going to pop off? Is it going to win back-to-back titles? Is it going to bomb out like G2? It's really hard to tell.
Yeah. Have to wait and see. All right, Caedrel, who you got? S tier?
I'm on the S tier Vitality, but I'm going to follow up with the second S tier team, which I think is Fnatic.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think Fnatic.
We're getting where I was hoping we were going to wait. We're going to get both the S tier teams out of the way. All right. What do you got for me, bro? What do you got?
What do you mean both? Maybe there's a third.
Sure. I mean, we did the problem. Spoiler: we made a top 10 list on your stream like a month ago, and unsurprisingly,
no, we didn't.
These two were the top. And everyone, I mean, if you look at these rosters and you have anyone else in top 2, either I respect your use of recreational drugs, or I would love to hear your arguments. Like whatever you prefer, feel free to tweet at me. But yeah, like if you have anything other than these top 2, please check your biases at the door. Yeah. And maybe let me know, because maybe we did miss something. I don't want to say that we're flawless.
Maybe they know something. Maybe they're prophets. Maybe they've seen the future and they know that this team's going to win. Anyway, Fnatic. The cool thing to me about Fnatic is what a shitstorm of an offseason they had to finish with such a good offseason. What the hell happened in Fnatic? Because you go from having this god-awful offseason publicly to then having the Thanos Gauntlet, where you've got all your Infinity Stones. Upset Hilly, best bot lane EU. Humanoid, best mid EU, who just won back-to-back titles. Razork, MVP of Misfits. Wunder, top laner of G2. And they went... And now it's a case of can they snap their fingers?
I think the Thanos metaphor is perfect, because this is why we talk about the league being top-heavy. It's just Fnatic existing. Just bam, half the league is no longer eligible for playoffs. You know what I mean? Just you guys are going to get obliterated.
G2 top, Misfits jungle, mad mid, yoink, mine now. I don't know how they pulled that off in the offseason, but they did. And the second funniest thing to me about this offseason is, I think after the series between Fnatic and G2, all the Fnatic fans were shitting on Wunder, yeah, take that. Adam's better. The Yumi scream thing.
Well, okay, to be fair, Wunder also shat on Fnatic at every waking opportunity. I don't want to make this sound like this was Wunder is very publicly talked trash all the time.
I will say he came into my stream a couple days ago and he wrote G2 Kek W. So he's already on the other side of the train now. I think he's ready to take his revenge on G2. But now, like I was saying, everyone, Wunder versus Fnatic, Fnatic versus Wunder, and now 3 months later, fast forward. Now it's your top laner, boys. Is everyone back on the Wunder train? Because I will say, from my opinion, Wunder was, 2019, the best top in EU by far. 2020, ups and downs. 2021, also ups and downs. The whole team had ups and downs. The memes of him playing WoW, not playing solo queue, not taking it seriously, la 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 la. I think this Fnatic roster and Wunder now swapping teams is actually a couple of good positives. The first one, it's a kick up the ass. The second one is a change of environment. And the third one is now he has more motivation, perhaps, because, he's on a new roster, new thoughts around the team. It's not the G2 laid back, like, yeah, we'll win summer anyway. I will win playoffs. I will win spring. Now it's a very different environment, a very different training environment, different expectations. I think Wunder is, in my eyes, going to be reawoken. I think the beast will be reawoken. Will he be 2019 Wunder? I think that's very hard to say. I doubt he'll be 2019 Wunder, but he will show remnants of it, I hope. And I think Wunder will be back at this split. And that's why I'm excited for this roster.
Yeah, and I think that there are some good questions to ask about this roster. And one of them is, are we going to see Wunder come back to peak form? How is Humanoid going to do on a new team? Because we all expect this, similar to Wunder, who we talk about wanting that kick in the butt and that motivation. Humanoid, not necessarily needing a kick in the butt, but is a dude who dealt with a ton of burnout last year on Mad. And this is something that Mad has a lot of experience dealing with, both Humanoid and what he needs to be successful and burnout. And I think that Yamato Cannon is no doubt no stranger to that either, just because I think that it's a very rigorous schedule to be in a pro team completely. But there are going to be new challenges. And I think it's easy to give Wunder and Humanoid both the benefit of the doubt. They're going to be super fired up and raring to go. But we were talking last year about Humanoid being a guy who plays to the level of his opponent. When you're at Worlds, Humanoid is fired up. He's fighting for his life to go toe to toe with mid laners. When you come back after going to Worlds, to LEC regular season, fresh year, is he going to come in with that same motivation? Is he going to be trying to, come in at 100% every single game? And I'm inclined to say yeah, but I think it's a fair question to ask for both those players is what level do we see them at? What level do they, how long does it take them to get back to that peak? Because definitely as stacked as this team is on paper, all these players still need to be performing at the top level for this to be the S tier that we expect it to be.
Yeah, I think the fire and the hunger, I think the person with the most of it's probably going to be Razork, because he's always been on teams who have just come close, they made playoffs, but they never really dented playoffs. They never really made top 3. And now he's on a roster that can make top 3. And he has the potential to do it himself as well. So now he's sitting at his chair. He's looking around him. He's got the best bot lane in Europe last year. He's got 29, one of the best top laners in Europe, just 2 years ago, who made a world final. He's got the person who just won back-to-back splits next to him. He's thinking, damn, if I really do put the work in like I did in 2021, I might actually win myself a title here. So I think he's definitely really hungry because he's never really won one yet. Upset hasn't either, but I think he's shown incredible domestic success last year alongside Hylissang. So I think, it's the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet. It's a case of whether they can click their fingers. But I think Fnatic have done themselves a bloody good job in this offseason. If you ask me what Fnatic's roster in 2022 would be at the end of 2021, I would never have said that they got Mads mid, Misfits jungle, and G2 top. Never in a million years.
Well, and I think for Fnatic fans, it's got to feel so good because last year was such a mess in terms of building a roster that was going to perform at the level that you wanted to perform. You had the Blippo role swap to jungle, Adam coming in. And ultimately, don't get me wrong, that Fnatic roster ended up doing incredible things. That playoff run was awesome. One of the best things domestically we've seen in a long time outside of the Schalke Miracle run. But
it was a lot of heart-stopping moments, though. I think a lot of Fnatic fans were like, guys, can you stop with the 5-game series? Can we just 3-0 someone and get to the final safely? Come on, guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like anyone, I would never have called them a safe bet. You know what I mean? And certainly at the start of the season, it was pretty rocky. And it's, understandably so. You got Adam coming in as a rookie and you got Blippo in a new position. All of that makes sense. But for this feels like the first time in a while that Fnatic has been wow, I believe that this team can hit the ground running and should hit the ground running. And I'm excited for Yamato Cannon too, because I think that we've seen Yamato bring up rookie teams. We've seen him deal with Fnatic in this chaos last season where they weren't quite able to find a solid footing. Now he has all the pieces necessary to win a title, And this is, I think, a huge opportunity for him as a coach who's been around for a long time to win it all, because this is probably, in terms of 5 players, one of the best opportunities you're going to get. We've already talked about Vitality, who are their biggest competition, and honestly, after these 2 teams, there's a pretty decent gap. So this is you have got the tools, everything, all the variables around you are set up for success too, in the sense that the league is top heavy right now, and huge opportunity for both Fnatic to come back and get a title again, as well as Yamato Cannon, a guy who's been chasing one for a long time.
Would you say this Fnatic roster is a super team? Well,
I think you have to, because I think that while it's easy to forget about Wonder's pedigree in light of last year, and it's easy to forget Humanoid is a guy who's been a little all over the place historically, but was able to find results in the last year. I think this is a super team. I think that you can't tell me that Humanoid being the best performing mid laner in LEC is worth more than Perkz being, the one of the best. I didn't really watch that much LCS. The best, or if not one of the best LCS performing mid laners. You know what I mean? You can't, even if Perkz has all that history behind him, Humanoid's the guy last year who was actually making shit happen domestically. He was the rock for Mad for so much of the year.
I wonder what defines super team, right? Because that's just such an interesting discussion to me, because you look at Vitality and you think super team, but you look at Fnatic and you don't really think instantly super team. But if you look on paper, they have 2 world finalists, they have 3 LEC champions, right? In Wunder, Humanoid, and Hylissang as LEC champions. Hylissang, Wunder is world finalists. You look at Vitality and it's just Perkz is the only one who's won an LEC title. Perkz, the only one with the world finals. Everyone around him, Karsi as well. So there's two LEC titles, sorry. But in terms of world finals and things like this, it's Perkz. In terms of achievements, Fnatic has more from the individuals. It's just the names. Is it the names that are bigger, or the expectations that are higher on the Vitality players?
It's Perkz. I not to cut off your...
it's Perkz.
Yeah, it's Perkz. Because Perkz' weight of achievements is so good that if you put Perkz next to top 2, top 3 players in their position on any team, you'd call that a super team. Because Humanoid has a ton of domestic achievements, and
so does that make him a super player?
Yeah, Perkz is whatever positive adjective you want to throw on him, you can throw on him. The GOAT of EU, the most successful European player of all time. Perkz is a legend. There's nothing you can take away from Perkz, and Humanoid's getting there. But that's a sheep, not a goat. But I don't know what you're... Wait, do goats also bad?
What does a goat make?
I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, do goats also bad? Okay, let us know. I don't want to...
They must bad. I don't know what else they would make. The cow goes moo, the pig goes oink.
I didn't have that button on my little toy when I was a toddler. You know what I mean? The goat. What is the goat? Just someone
with all the animal noises.
Sounds like. I don't like it's a Perkz interview clip because I aura.
You know what a girl. You know what a goat sounds like?
Do I know what a girl sounds like?
No, what a goat sounds. No. I meant to say goat. Do you know what a goat sounds like?
Huh? A goat.
A goat says, "Watch me."
Ooh, I like it.
That's what a goat says.
There you go.
Like that? That's a good transition.
But yeah, I think that Fnatic are also a super team, and they have just their bot lane alone. Upset Hylissang is, the Mingala. I don't know what bot lane they want to be, if they want to compare to the Mako Viper bot lane now, whatever they want to be compared to. They are our.
I would say it's more like a
lane.
Gumayusi Keria.
That's fair. I like that. Anyway, that's Fnatic. And I think these are the 2 teams we expect to be fighting it out. I think we can shift now. Damn, it's so hard not to just go in order. Do you want to go in a completely different direction and go down to the bottom?
No, go crazy. Yeah, go crazy at the bottom. Go crazy at the bottom.
Let's just grab the team that belongs in the D tier. It's like it's reserved for them.
Oh, every time Astralis is in D tier, man.
All right, we just click and drag Astralis down. Yeah, I'll go first, then you can go. God, there's a lot to... It's hard. This is what I will say. As a pundit of this league, I generally want to be supportive of any team, but it's hard to be super psyched about Astralis when they changed so little of things that ultimately didn't work for them. Now, it's important that we do acknowledge, I think, that they had a great run at the end of last season. A lot of that was Zanzar's Trundle, and I'm legitimately excited for Zanzar, and I want to see what Dayor can do in the mid lane. But, Promise Q, not the best performing support in our league by any means. White Knight had Lee Sin, but past that, 1 or 2 really good games. We were starting to get hyped for White Knight, but again, most of the season, not super standout. Zanzara, innovator, creative player, still, I think was ranked only did not get the worst jungler because of Kirei, who was hard choking on stage. So and then Kabe, who has been Mr. Reliable for years, but Astralis has a lot of people who are I don't even want to say reliable. Reliable is not enough. So unless Dayor is a really standout carry on this team, there's no evidence to support that this team is going to make playoffs. Now they could make a miracle run, and I would be excited to see it happen. Goldberg pointed out that maybe hey, maybe we're too critical of Astralis, but until it happens, I will not believe it, because this team on paper is just not giving me or anyone else, I think, a lot to work with.
The thing is, when I look at Astralis, I feel like their wins come off the individual, right? So Zanzara's Trundle, you said it. White Knights, Lee Sin, and Renekton games, the individual. Jeskla has a few pop-off games, the individual. Magifelix finds one backdoor to get them a win, the individual. And it never really felt like this was a team that was winning games. And when the individuals are weaker than others in the league, then that's how high the team can go, right? Vitality last year, Selfmade pulled them through some games, and the individual itself, Selfmade is a fantastic player. So he, in playoffs, maybe almost brought them to 5th. Did very well to find into playoffs in the first place. Then look at Astralis. It's as strong as the individual. Those individuals, to me, don't really look like playoffs defining players. And when they're only off-season, it's just changing out their mid and then slotting in a consistent AD, Mr. Consistent Kobe. I'm not sold. Especially when the mid is... Dior, I'm not going to criticize Dior as a player at all, but he has not been playing competitive for very long whatsoever. I think he's played 1 split or 2 splits max. Yeah. I don't know the exact number, but he hasn't been playing much whatsoever. So there's nothing like jumping out of the page to me when I look at this team. Dayo did make, I think it was an EU Masters finals in summer, and he was playing like insane games on TF and Rise, and maybe there's something there. So I'm glad that they found a rookie, because at least they have that X factor if Dior is popping off, and Zanzara can be the reliability, like you said, and then maybe they can funnel into Dior. But I don't really see who's carrying the games, because before, Jeskla was the only one to lean to, and White Knight when it was meta defining. Now, I'm kind of like, well, you have a roaming mid player who's shown things like Rise TF and Seraphine Silas. You've got White Knight in a meta where it's like very jungle top dependent, so that feels very difficult in Europe. And then Mr. Consistent Kobe, which is like, granted, he was never really inting, but he was never really like popping off in games. He was just always doing his job. So yeah, and you can talk about their past achievements, but even in 2021, they finished 9th. And then in summer, they finished like 7th, 8th. It's like, well, you can say that they're 1 win away from these things, but that applies to everyone,
Yeah,
if you're 10th or if you're 7th, most of the time in the ADC, you're separated by 1 or 2 wins, unless you're 0-16, right?
Well, and that'll happen. But I think for the last couple years, most of our playoffs have been decided by 1 win, 1 tiebreaker. And I love it. I love that we have such close playoff races, but it also means that like being 1 win away from playoffs is not as much of an achievement as maybe it would be in splits where, there are some 0-16 teams. And I think that the big thing, just to distill it down as simply as possible, is that like last year we were waiting to see which player would be the carry on Astralis for people to play around, because we were like, wow, we have some smart players, we have some players that can set other people up for success, but who the hell are they setting up? And if that's Dayor, if that's Kabe, if Kabe's going to put on the carry pants and not be Mr. Consistent but be Mr. Hyper Carry, like maybe this team can do something. But sadly for Dayor, who I think is the guy on this team that probably will not get as much time to prove himself before he's just immediately doubted, because Astralis has been historically unsuccessful. It's just that when you're scouted by Astralis, it's not the same thing as being scouted by Mac. You know what I mean? Like, I give Unforgiven a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, even though he has similarly and less actual achievements than Dayor, because Mac is like, I put my faith in this guy. He staked his reputation on that guy, and Mac's reputation is big. This is a man who's one of the most successful coaches in the last few years, and certainly one of the most respected coaches, whereas Astralis are a team that have not really achieved anything since the first splits with Origin.
Yeah, and if you look at, I haven't watched all their games from last year, I can't remember completely, but especially in summer, a lot of their games were won from being down in gold, right? They were down 5, 6K, 4, 5K, whatever it may be.
They were down like 1 point. They were behind in every single game, Caedrel. They were never, they were the team,
The individual clutched it out, right? A White Knight leasing kick, a White Knight pentakill, Jessica pops off in a fight. They find these. I think there was only 1 or 2 games where they actually definingly won a game. I think they had a game, I don't know who it was against, Schalke maybe. They were 23, 24-minute win. That was their only real defining win. So you can argue objective bounties, poggers, they're going to fall behind. They're going to come back even harder now. And it's like, well, I never really trust teams that can not get ahead in the first 20 minutes of the game. And as much as the opposite side of the coin is Rogue, the Rogue time, Keck. I think having a good fundamental is always strong, but this team never really felt like they had strong fundamentals as a team. It just felt like the individual found a play and then they found their way back into the game by just obvious shot calling in terms of like, oh, we made a pick, let's just flip Baron. Flip Baron works. Okay, we're back in the game.
This is not a team you can bet on, I think is where we're at. And ultimately, I hope we're wrong, because I don't want to immediately be putting a team down in 10th place every single time we make one of these tier lists. But again, when you make small changes and the smallest changes last year, spring to summer, and then pretty small changes, all things considered, here again after failing. It's hard to like super believe in your team.
The good thing, if you're an Astralis fan, rating them low means they can only break expectations, which is also a good thing. I think, especially if I was a player and I was like, oh, social media is ranking me the worst team in the LEC. I've got nothing to lose. You know, what have I got to lose if I'm already the worst team in the LEC in everyone's minds already? Then you make playoffs. Wow, miracle run, Cinderella story. This team's amazing. More in-depth look at the players. You generate a lot more hype around you. So if I was placed in C+ tier as a Astralis player, I wouldn't really have that kind of boom in
it's also
eyes on me if I was to make playoffs, right? So not a bad thing if you're a player.
Like, people can call it mean if they want to, and I don't think it's mean, because it's not. We're not doing this with any intention. I just think it's important that you do not, like, this is not the participation trophy football that I played when I was in middle school. You know what I mean? Like, it's dope when you suck and then you prove, or people expect you to suck and you prove them wrong and you make playoffs. That's great. That's a great thing. But the only reason that's cool is because people didn't expect to see you do it in the first place. Like, we're almost taking away from any potential future success if we write them in as a playoff team when they aren't. So I say, prove us wrong. I would be glad to sit here and like interview Promiscu or Kabe and be like, yo, we were wrong. You guys are cracked. You know, like, how did you do it? Yeah. How did you make it happen? Or like AOD, how did you know that Dayor was going to be the next Faker? I would love to have that interview. I would love to be wrong. But until proven otherwise, I'm not going to change my prediction. And I don't think anyone should until they show us that. So that's kind of, I feel like, where we're at for Astralis.
All right, Didi, we got 6 teams left. We got to bang, bang, bang these. Yeah?
Yeah, we're not the bang, bang.
My turn.
Okay, fine. Your turn.
I like pace. If you ever watch my stream, I like speed, I like power, I like pace. It's about drive. It's about power. Okay, we stay humble.
Hungry. We devour.
All right.
We stay hungry, dude. What? Learn what? Okay. All right. Go.
I'm gonna pull out SK Gaming, and I'm gonna put them. I don't know where to put them. I'm on the CD area. On the CD. CDs. Yeah. Okay. There's a joke in there. Anyway, SK Gaming. Treats. Mm-hmm. I'm glad he's back in support. This is already a positive. Jezu, this bot lane, I'm happy. 2021 spring, run back. Fantastic. Love it. Genex. Actually think reliable top laner, not too bad. He had very good stats because he was playing a lot of ranged top laners, so he was obviously winning his lane to a point. But obviously the team was crumbling. A lot of counter pick, that's the thing. But the team was crumbling around him. Certus, not super hyped on him, but he has been in ERLs for a long time. He has been hovering around the top of ERLs. He's never really stood out to anyone in their minds like, wow, this guy is the next Caps, the next Faker, whatever it may be, whatever you want to call it. He made a semis in the EU Masters, right? He's a reliable control mage player, plays a little bit of roaming champion. So I think good player to look at, good investment. Kind of happy about that. I like that they're trying to bring in a new mid laner here. Gilius, the return of Gilius. I'm not sure how that's going to pan out. We haven't seen him for a while. The last time we saw him, not much success. But still, I think Gilius is a player who you can always rely on, especially in the LEC. Like, he's always going to do his job. And to me, Gilius is one of those players who has so much veterancy that he's been in every situation. He's been on high highs. He's been on low lows. He looks to me like the biggest thing, if I was a coach or if I was in a team with Gilius, I think this guy is a game changer out of the game, 100%. This seems like the guy who will get you rallied up no matter what your scoreline is. He'll humble you down if you're winning. So I think that's always good to have.
Yeah, and I think it's important to talk about a couple things here. One is SK's last season, and like, it's all new support staff. So Swiffer, formerly of the Chiefs, legendary OPL team, who was the XL Academy coach that brought up Marcoon and Advian, is now coaching SK Gaming. This is a guy I'm very excited about, but I also have a bias for Australians because all my favorite shoutcasters are Australian. So go ahead.
Before you continue, I actually want to apologize.
Point for me to leave off. Go ahead.
I completely forgot that Gilius was on their spring playoffs.
Yeah, it was on the spring
Schalke. Replaced going into summer. Yeah, of course. Oh my god, that completely slipped my mind. Where they beat G2 in the best of 5. Then they went through on to playoffs. Yeah, okay. Last time I see Gilius, he was playing fantastically. It was the Hecarim Udyr meta. I just remembered. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, you're good. Yeah, so I think it is important to note that, that was the trajectory. And it was the Kire sub-in, which was supposedly very good in scrims, but ultimately just never made its way to stage.
That was it, yeah.
And so I'm excited. I'm excited for this team. I think Swivers has potential as a coach. It seems like he did very well with XL, the XL Academy lineup coming out of NLC. And I'm ready to see what he can do with SK Gaming. Already, we're coming in with a much better foundation than last year. We're not going to have any weird coach sub-ins. We're not going to have any weird role swaps. And for me, Gilius is exciting because Gilius is always exciting. I don't think me or anyone else is going to try to play into the Gilius memes for a little while. We may have beat that horse dead a few times over. But Jezu and Treats, yeah. Gilius, God of Lee Sin. Jezu Treats is exciting to me. I think that has the potential to be a top 3, top 4 bottom lane when they're playing well. Treats was, the MVP of that SK lineup that did manage to make playoffs. It was him who had all these moment-defining plays. Like, if anyone is going to contest Lebrov as the 3rd best support in the league, or more, depending, we'll see how Lebrov does. I think Treats is one of the players who can do it. Now, he did play a split of jungle. He does have to come back, but this is a player who has had those huge moments. Gen X, I'm not sold on by any means, but I agree with you that he's like reliable. Maybe that's enough. Maybe they keep giving him counter pick and range top laners so he can get CS leads. And Certus is a question mark. So this team is, to me, I would say on paper, middle of the pack, clearly. But the ceiling is probably lower on this team, at least in terms of expectations, than it would be for a completely rookie jungler, because Gilius's highs are pretty high and higher than a lot of rookies' highs are on average, but he doesn't have that self-made ceiling. He doesn't have that Elyoya ceiling, or at least we haven't seen that from him.
Yeah. That's the thing. I think the ceiling of this team is low, but it's not bad, right? Like you said, middle of the pack. I think the star player is obviously Treats. It's just a question of how much can Treats get done, because in spring 2021, he got a hell of a lot done for that team. The question is, can he find that again? Can he do it again? Can he get the champions to do it again? Can he get the game states to do it again? Star player is definitely Treats. But like, I wouldn't put them in B tier, because I think you're right. The ceiling is just hard to see. But again, the bottom is far away as well. It's not like they're going to be a last place team. By no means. I think this team is fighting for playoffs.
Yeah, well, I think it's, again, depending on how Astralis does, I think it's actually the race for playoffs, and specifically, I think 6th place, 5th place is super tight. And like, this is one of the areas where I feel the least, and maybe you feel differently, I feel the least confident in predicting, because SK Gaming is a team that could, through good teamwork and good leadership, be, top 5 team in the league, or it could blow up in their face and this team could look like a hot mess. You know what I mean? Like,
you're right.
It's really, it's hard. It's hard. So I'm inclined to say, yeah, they could fight for playoffs, but I don't think that they're not up there with Excel, where Excel feels like a safe bet for playoffs. This is just a team that's in the running for playoffs in my eyes.
I agree. I think the strongest factor for this team will be teamwork. Just team. The vibes outside the game, I think Gilius brings it, Swiffer brings it. I think as a whole, there's no one like explosive on this roster. I think, it might be a bit hard to deal with outside the game or inside the game. I feel like Jesu is very humble. He's very down to earth. He's a very cool guy. He's very supportive. Treats is the same. Gen X is the same. I think Gilius is always going to ramp them up. Be like, who the hell are we playing against? I don't even have these nameplates on. Is this some kind of bronze team we're against? When they're playing against like one of the best teams in the league. I don't know how Certus' personality is, but I think that's going to be a locker room diff, that team. And I think that can take you to high highs. It's a very underrated kind of thing to have when all your team is just, fully focused, not even tilting, just all one goal. Everyone's happy.
Yeah. All right. You did SK, right? So it's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay, let's round out the bottom of the table. BDS.
Where are they going?
It's a Sierra D angle. All right, let's talk about it. All right, so let's just, I want to say that I have very little faith in BDS, because I think that the best player on their lineup on paper is Limit. And Limit was a good support player, don't get me wrong. But like, I'm skeptical about Synchron. I'm skeptical of X-Matty. Yes, I saw their K-Corp success. They're players that have been around for a long time. They are, I think, rookies in name only, in the sense that they have, like, when you've played in ERL for long enough, I think you basically have the LEC experience. And maybe I'm wrong. I haven't played there myself. But you look at Adam, he's a guy who had some success on Fnatic, but it was super feast or famine. And, I don't think that he's a reliable top lane in the league. I think he absolutely could become one. And I think Nuclear Int was pretty mediocre throughout last year, and he was the player that BDS opted to build this roster around. So the thing that I'm most excited about is Grabs and Duffman together as an analyst coaching duo on a team that's not G2, and Limit, because I think Limit was one of our great playmaking supports when Schalke were doing well. So everything else to me is like, Like I'm not even like I'm not super fired up. Like what's your read on this?
I think Adam is just so volatile. Like as a player, I think he had the most solo kills, but I think he was the one who got solo killed the most or something, like most isolated deaths. Like, he's fighting a lot. And you can see it from his champ pool when he's playing things like Darius and Olaf, right? These are his counter picks. So there's a lot of volatility on the top side. If you can control it, I think they can find some success. But if you play away from it, then you're going to struggle, I think, because Adam will always find risky plays on his own, right? Whether it's just pushing out his top waves, running mid, and just seeing if a mid gank works. Either he gets his flash, sometimes he gets a kill, maybe he loses waves top for it, maybe he gets nothing and loses all the waves top, and now top's really hard, right? So I like watching Adam. I will say it's fun to watch, but I think that team is kind of going to be defined by him. Now, Nuclear Int, very underwhelming, I think, throughout the year. I didn't really see it too much in summer. He had a couple of good TF games here and there. Maybe he can facilitate his top side. Syncroft, similarly, it's like the team was winning and Syncroft was doing a lot to win it, but I don't see a ceiling that's extremely high for Syncroft. But I do think he is probably the most consistent player on that lineup next to Limit. How him and Limit function together will be very important, because I think this team needs to get top ahead, otherwise they're going to struggle. I think Matty's always going to be a safe bet if you put him on like an Ezreal or a Ziggs or whatever. I think Matty's very flexible. He can do his job. They've got good vibes as well, right? Matty and Syncroft coming from the same team, grabs a lot of experience to kind of dictate how this team works. But the pieces just seem like they don't fit very well together. It's very hard to kind of put it into words.
I will say that we kind of we said wow, this is the worst analysis of all time. We said SK passed the vibe check. I'd say that BDS could pass the vibe check too. I think obviously like people are going to have strong feelings about Adam after a lot of the offseason stuff, but I think putting that aside for a second, I think like Syncroft and Limit are both much older players, and I would expect them to be more mature. That's not always how it lines up, but I think as guys who have been around for a long time and who have been able to continuously find teams for a while, I think they're guys you expect to be more mature. I think Grabs and Duckman are established. Limit has some good experience. And so if we talk about Nuclear and Adam as kind of the two younger players on the lineup, I think that we now get to see how Adam functions outside of Fnatic, and maybe could be a level up for him depending on what he's able to do. Maybe get out of... I love his unique picks, but at the same time, I do want to see more than just the unique picks. And similarly, Nuclear and... Again, like that team was such a disaster in summer. It's like, I think the best thing we can do for Nuclear Ant is just give him a blank slate and trust that people have seen things that we have not from him, and set the expectation that like, okay, we'll just have to wait and see. But the thing is, even when we say all that, even when we do all that, I think they are at best right there alongside SK. And if you're more skeptical than that, I think they're down there with Astralis in terms of probably not on the same level as Astralis. Maybe they're in the D+ tier, but like this is a team that is not a we're going to win spring split investment. This is a we believe we will grow into summer kind of investment, at least when I look at it on paper. And I just think that spring is going to be generously a learning process and probably a very difficult split.
Yeah. I think summer would definitely be better for this team. I would hope, because you look at the players, right? You've got Nuclear into Matty brand new to the LEC, Nuclear into who needs to kind of... I mean, he only had one split, right? So having another split under his belt would really help him. Adam to find his groove, his consistency, find where he fits in the team, and then Syncroft, who's now back in the LEC. All led by Grabs, who I think is the best piece, I think, of BDS. Not in terms of like strength, just like bringing it all together. I think Grabs is the one who can bring it all together. I think the coaching staff is really crucial for this team. Any other coaching staff, I'm not sure if it would work so well, but I think having so much experience, been to so many high highs and so many low lows, is someone like Grabs, who's been in, I don't know how long he's been in the LEC, but I'm going to say random guess of like 4 or 5 years. I remember Rocket days. Yeah.
Gambit. He was a Gambit analyst? All right, we'll have to talk to him. I know Grabs. Grabs, tell us we need a Grabs story at some point.
Yeah, but the biggest problem I see right out the gates is just when I see Adam's last picks and his blind picks, I worry for the team, because as much as you want to like draft, a Lux lane bot, for example, or some kind of mid matchup, which is like really volatile. I feel like a lot of the Fnatic drafts, when it came to like last picks for Adam, a lot of it was kind of the reliability just came from Set a lot of the time, and Renekton maybe, and then other than that, things like Darius and Olaf. So Adam to me is the biggest question mark. It's like, Can we contain a little bit of the volatility? Can we tone it down a little bit and let's chill out? Let's farm a bit, because I know the second enemy top walks up for a creep, Adam's just gonna hit him. He's just gonna Adam, just don't hit him. Let him have the creep.
If I'm with you, but if he plays, to me, it's kind of similar to when we talk about leader, in the sense that he plays the champions he plays. He's very good at the champion he plays, and both of them have bigger champion pools. But if you're going to play if leader's going to play a leader champion, or Adam's going to play an Adam champion, it plays a specific way, it does a specific thing, and he's either doing those things or he's losing the game. He's either killing you as Olaf, or you have an Olaf on your team who's 0-0-0, and you're like, my life, this champion's useless. You know what I mean? Or leader, where he's either popping off on a collie, or he's they're ganking his lane and he's dead 3 times and like the game's over. It's a difficult position to be in, and I think they will win games because of Adam Olaf. They will win games probably because of Adam Darius, whichever he wants to play. Maybe some Adam Renekton, even though that champion's been hit a million times with a Nerf bat. But how many games will they lose because of that? How many games will they drop because those champions don't work the way that they're supposed to work? So yeah, I'm with you. I want to see more from Adam. I want to see more development, and more that is not just that unique identity. As much as I love the unique identity, I would love to see more there. C or D?
I mean, the last thing is just welcome. Well, I don't know. Can we do C minus D plus? Is that a thing?
We'll put them in C, because they're not, obviously we're on the fence, and we're not on the fence with astrology.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, true. We're on the fence. I mean, last thing is welcome to LEC, BDS. Welcome. Schalke's gone. Yeah. BDS is here for anyone who didn't know. But yeah.
Welcome to all the rookies too. And if we're not excited about you, don't worry. When you pop off, we will be. And if we're not giving you your just deserved praise, message us on Twitter, because we're definitely not trying to undercut you guys when you pop off. But we're also not going to oversell
BDS's announcement. BDS's announcement video was sick. I like the color and the vibes and like.
Hell yeah, dude. That was produced by Young Elder, the same people who make a lot of our rap battles, who did the last Mad versus G2 rap battle. Those guys are killer. Shout out to Johnny and Dennis. We got 4 teams more, and before we didn't have to rush more, but now we've got not a ton of time left if we want to keep our producers happy.
Not a ton of time left. Okay. Let's power through it. Okay. I go G2 A tier. I can't put them on S tier just yet because brand new bot lane. Broken Blade, I think, is a good addition. Jankos Caps, obviously the staples. Would I call a super team? No. Would I say that they're favorites to win a split in spring? No. In summer, I would definitely put I'd have a bet on them. I think
there's
just
potential.
To see how spring plays out. But I think there's a lot of potential in this roster. Kargamas has had a stellar year in 2021. I think he is going to be one of the best supports in the league. Out of the gates, probably not. But this team needs time. Give G2 time. This is the first time we say this, where I think the 2 things I've noticed about G2 now is, 1, we need to give them time, and 2, we can't keep giving them the benefit of the doubt as well. Now, those 2 things might seem kind of polar opposites, but a lot of the times it was like, oh, G2 is 5th place. Oh, they're G2. They'll be fine. They'll be fine in playoffs. Oh, G2's 4th. Oh, they're down 1-0 in a 5, best 5. Oh, they're G2. It's fine. That's not the case anymore. It's not they're G2. It's fine anymore. This is a brand new roster, and they need time. They need a lot of time. If G2 are 5th, I won't be surprised. They're not probably, if they're 4th, I won't be surprised. If they're down a game in a best 5, I won't be surprised. This team will need time, I think. But I still think they have a lot of good players, and they still have probably one of the best mid jungles in the West still. So that's a good factor to have.
Yeah, and I think there's a ton of questions here. I think it's easy to believe in G2 when you look at their top side and you know what those players' ceilings look like, but also it's important to remember that Jankos and Caps came off a pretty shit split. And I think while we won't give G2 the benefit of the doubt, it's easy for all of us to give Jankos and Caps the benefit of the doubt, again, because of the pedigree, because of that history. But this is a massive change for G2 esports. New coaching staff, new rookie players. Like this is huge. And I think this is essentially... it's the same org, but basically everything else in my eyes has changed now. And while the mid jungle is enough for me to believe it, to agree with you and say that this is an A tier team alongside Broken Blade, that top side is solid. There's a lot that has to be figured out. This is the first rookie AD carry that G2 esports has had. Remember in the league, it was Emperor, and then it was Sven, and then it was Perks, or it was Hjarnan, and then it was Perks, right? And you call Perks a rookie AD carry, but like he's obviously not a rookie player, and that worked out very well for them. And how G2 is going to function as an organization in terms of developing rookies. And admittedly, Dylan Falco has had a lot of experience with that in the past. He's also worked closely with Broken Blade and with Caps and Caps' time on Fnatic. So there's a lot of positives. which
Didn't we need to go Vayne?
Good answers, yeah, which would lead to good answers to these questions, but there's still a lot of questions. So to me, G2 Esports is a team that I expect, based on the caliber of players and just almost on top side alone, not trying to put any huge expectations on Flackhead or Targamas, I would expect to be top 3, top 4. But if those guys also show up, this is a team that could be fighting for the title. But I do think it's unreasonable to put that expectation onto G2 in spring. And I think it is a huge opportunity for G2, the organization, to prove that they can develop new talent and that they know where to put their resources to develop that talent. In this case, it's Dylan and Dylan's team. Because that's just something they haven't really had to do. Like, Perks was the last big rookie that they brought up. And he came out the gate murdering people.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, let's see what a G2 organization with rookies looks like for the first time for freaking ever. Because they got Caps when Caps was great, right? Hjarn and Wadid were admittedly a younger bot lane in the scheme of things, but came from Rocket, right? And had a pretty solid split on Rocket.
With grabs?
Came over with grabs, yeah. But there's like, rookies have not been the name of the game for G2 in a very, very, pretty much ever, essentially. Like hybrid Perks. I guess can't remember if it was Expect's rookie season or not.
Kikis, right?
Kikis, yep. And then that eventually became Expect. So, I mean, TLDR, without getting into the whole history of G2, this is a huge point for G2 if they can retain the identity alongside Fnatic of one of the big bads. The key to doing that is being able to consistently build up talent.
Wait, Jake, is he telling me this is new era? New dynasty?
Oh my god, it is the new era.
This could be new legends.
Bro, I'm really trying not to oversell narrative today.
Oh my god.
Oh shit, Mad Lions, leaders of the new era, but the old kings, Fnatic, are coming back, and the other kings who've been dethroned. G2, the mother of dragons. Game of Thrones, season 8 meme. There's a lot.
Analogy. Okay, it's your turn.
G2. Cool. Let's do Rogue next. Bam. I'm going to say Rogue.
I like that one.
Solidly in B tier. Let me give my quick spiel and you can follow up. The loss of Hansama and Inspired is huge. Rogue's team is going to need to find a new identity because essentially what we knew from Rogue was Rogue time memes and really good, really consistent early games. And those early games were often defined by, almost always actually, it felt like me, defined by Inspired or defined by Hansama. If that was the Kalista picks or something else aggressive, that was a man who would get a lead on Kalista, rotate around the map, take 15 tower plates and win a game. Similarly, Inspired would have these huge pop-off games or sometimes these big games where you'd have to bring them back from Rogue time. And those two players being gone is an entire kind of shattering, I think, of the Rogue identity as it existed previously. And we're going to have to see if these new players want to fit into the same thing, if that's what the coaching staff wants to push them, if that's how it's going to work out or what they're going to do. That said, Odoamne is a player who, while he did have one very rough series versus Herit, has generally been pretty solid, consistent top 5 top laner. And when he's playing well, top 3 pretty easily. Larson, another guy with a lot of question marks around him, who can be contesting top 2 in the league and can also be like loosely top 5. Trimby's a guy that I'm still not entirely sold on, and Comp is again a guy who's been kind of the victim of roster swaps left and right. He's always been solid, but I don't think we've really gotten to see Comp solidly established in a team for a very extended period of time, surrounded by good players. But I am excited about Malrang, and I do think this is a team that has a lot of potential, but it is not going to be the Rogue of old. So I think this is a team that on paper can contest for playoffs, but I think while Excel is the safe bet because they have good pieces that were doing it before, Rogue, it's like, well, the history's there, the coaching staff has done well, and some of the new players on this roster feel solid. So that's why I feel okay about giving them that 5th, 6th prediction.
That's the thing I noticed about Rogue. It's like they have prior expectations that, well, they've been finishing so high in the regular split, they should do it again. But I think this offseason for Rogue, like you were talking about, it's just damage mitigation, right? You're losing 2 of the best players in your team, in the league, in their roles in the West. And now you have to figure out how to stay on top without going too hard on the rookie train, but also keeping your notoriety of being a top team, right? Malrang is a wildcard X Factor edition, was on Damwon after they won Worlds. He joined in 2021, I believe. Played a couple games on stage, probably watched all their scrims, maybe even scrimmed a lot of the time, some of the times as well. And all I can say about Malrang is this guy came to the EU solo queue 3 weeks ago. I've never seen someone destroy solo queue as hard as that guy in my life. Like, it's granted it's preseason, but this guy was 1,100 LP, I think, with like a 74% win rate. I've never seen that before. But it's preseason, so it's hard to say. but he's the X factor. I think he played in Turkey for a bit. He won the TCL. I don't know how many times. So he has been in. I don't think the homesick thing would apply to him as much because he has been out of his region a few times, I believe, in Royal Bandits. I don't know for how long that was. But he has been accustomed to a Western environment, I would imagine, right? Where people were speaking English around him. I was speaking to Odo Wamne and he said his English is basically like Ryu's English after a year, you know?
Oh, nice.
So it's there, it's tangible, you know. League of Legends as a game has its own language anyway, you know. Top, gank, bot, vision, right? There's a lot of easy words that can just kind of transfer. So I think language barrier will be a small problem, not as big as if you just grabbed, you know, a player just fresh off the LCK and just threw him into a Western team that's never been away from home. Comp again, I think the second biggest thing is not only is it damage mitigation for this team, but question marks. I think you hit on it perfectly, right? Odo Wamne has had its ups and downs. Larson is reliable, but does he have a lot of impact for the team, right? He's always kind of safe bet, but he's never really explosive in a sense, right? Comp, how good is Comp? We know him as a solo queue machine. Now he's here. So question marks and damage mitigation, how well can they do? I think E tier is fair.
Yeah. It's hard to have bigger expectations. I'm excited to see what Rogue can do. Because remember, before Mad Lions it's like a title we pass around of the team that's like the best at developing rookies. It was Rockhat and then eventually Rogue who brought up. And the Rogue team's story for so long was constant development. They went from like 4th to 3rd to 2nd. They were like constantly getting better. And now it's like a complete restart on that. And we have to see if they can find the same momentum. I, like you, am very excited for Malrang. I think I want to see how much of that solo queue translates, because it's either going to be, wow, this guy is insane, he's giga smurfing every game, or it's going to be like everyone's on a different page, it's going to be horrible to watch, and maybe they're not fighting for that 5th, 6th space. Maybe they're fighting for 4th or 3rd, maybe they're fighting for 7th or 8th, and that's kind of the range that feels appropriate to me right now. Misfits, I see you prepped
so
it.
I prepped it. I pulled Misfits into BC tier. I don't know which tier they should be in, because again, to me, they're a slight dark. Like I said at the start of the show, I had 2 dark horses. XL was one of them. Misfits is kind of my dark horse. I don't know how good this team can be, but I don't want to overrate them off the bat, because like when I look at it, I think he's one of the best top laners in the league. I don't know how much to attribute that to Razork playing topside a lot of the time, but still, when he was ahead, he did his job, right? So I think Hirit was, I don't know exactly the number for how good he was, top 4, top 5, but he was definitely one of the best. I think VTO has had his moments. Towards the end of the split, he got really good. Neon is very similar, where he's just kind of under the radar, really good. Most of the time was part of the Miracle Run, all that good stuff, right? So we know he has high highs. Shlatan, I think, rookie of the split, really hyped up jungler, should have been in the LEC last year. And Mersa, who I've always kept my eye on in solo queue a lot of the time, is like this really good individual standout player who, yes, he didn't find much success in ERLs, but I think it is a really good pickup. So I don't know how much this roster has. And then the last thing I want to say is the coaching staff. I think Misfits have a really big coaching staff right now. I think they brought up Hiva, they've got Candy Floss, and their coaching staff, I think, is fantastic
Carter
in 2021.
It's Carter now. We call him Carter. We let the old name
He's
die.
Carter now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm stuck to the old name. Candy
Friend
Floss,
of the
Carter.
show.
I
He's
think
been
they
on
had really
before.
Good, yeah, he was on good coaching staff. I think a lot of positives for Misfits.
Yeah. So on the Hirit note, I mean, I'm really excited. I think we were a fan of Hirit when he first started, and he was playing like the Camille Renekton, and he had some great TPs, and he had some great individual outplays on dives. And then I think the series versus Rogue kind of cemented him as one of our top laners. I'll say that last season, even last year, top lane pool was pretty weak compared to what it's been historically, especially with like a Wonder underperforming with Alfari being gone. But with Alfari back and Wonder potentially set up to be back in form, top lane looks strong again. So it's a big deal for Hirit to be up there with those names as a guy who can contest. VTO similarly has been super solid. When he gets his champions, he's really, really able to pop off. So I'm excited. I think that this team is clearly, to me, above the SKs and the BDSs, but also I would say definitely below Excel. Maybe on par with Rogue. Even that feels unfair, because I think Larson has had so much more success than VTO. So I would say that they're either, I would put them on the upper end of C tier, because I don't think they're as safe of a bet as an XL or a Rogue. But I do think that this is a team that should be fighting for playoffs, probably fighting just for 6th. And after their success last season, I want to see more from Misfits. I would be really excited if they were able to move up and fight into that like A tier with the kind of general top 4 that we might be emerging here. But I don't want to oversell them yet, because I think Shlatan is good, Hirit is good, and VTO are good, because I think Neon and Mersa still have to show that they're going to work well in the context of this team. And whatever success Misfits found last season, we still don't know how much of that to attribute to Razork.
They have, I think when I look at this roster, I think it has high highs and lows. I think this roster could push an A tier like really hard if the top side manages and Mersa does well. I think this could push a top 4 or top 5 maybe, but I also think it might push a bottom, like a 7th, 8th place as well. So I'm on the fence. I don't think there's much middle ground.
The Misfits story.
Yeah, it's Misfits all over the place. Every single time, every year, every split, everything. Misfits is always 6 wins in a row, 6 losses in a row. First place, 5th place, first place, 9th place. Like, what's happening? I get that vibe again, kind of. But there's one more team left.
All right. Wait, are they C? I think we're putting them in C, yes?
Oh, can we not put them in the middle?
No, we can't, because that defeats the point of... Maybe we should just do top 10 next time. But you can choose. You want C or you want B? I'll give you choice. They're the bottom of B or they're the top of C. Keep in mind, we have 7... No, you actually can't. You can't, because if Mad goes where I think you're going to put Mad, then they have to go C, because then we have too many teams that are going to be playoffs people.
Yeah, it's C.
All right, Mad Lions. They're going into A tier. Let's talk about it. For me...
They're going into A tier. Oh, shit.
Wait, are you kidding me? Of course Mad Lions are going into A tier. I think... And maybe this is bold.
Skeptical. I was maybe B.
Maybe upper end of B. And if we can talk about it, maybe you convince me. I think that the fact that they still have one of the strongest, if not the strongest, jungle support in the league, and probably should be coming out the gates, as they're the two players who've spent the most time playing together with the most success, although we'll see how self-made Lebrov does. That's going to be massive for developing and bringing up 2 rookies. I think Arma, as much as laning has never been his big strength, and he will certainly get punished more for that with players like EUphoria coming back into the league, his ability to find fights and pick good fights is massive. And I just generally have faith in the development for Mad Lions of rookies. Now, Unforgiven could suck and Reeker could suck. And those are the big things that make this hard to put them on the same tier. Because I think that if both of those guys suck, it's almost impossible for Mad Lions to win a game. Whereas G2, if their bot lane sucks, I think their top side can still win games. Right. So I will say that Mad Lions are below G2 because they're not as reliant on don't have to be as reliant on their rookie players as Mad Lions do. Like if Reeker sucks, Mad Lions is probably not a good team. Like that's the thing that's going to be really hard about this. But I believe in Mac, risky. Dude. I believe in Mac. I don't know. You call that what you want. I think the evidence is there.
I think Mad Lions with such a good jungle support, it's almost like they can put their mid and AD on the ladder. They can pass them the baton after 60% of the race. Like you just got to do the rest. I trust you. You just got to do the rest. And it's a case of whether the carries can do the rest, right? If the carries can't, then they're inevitably just going to get ahead and just fumble, or their team fights are going to be weak. Those are the two outcomes you see when your mid and AD are weaker than your jungle support, right? It's going to take time again. Similar to G2 when you slot in not 1 but 2 brand new rookies to the LEC stage, especially in carry positions like mid and AD. They have got a lot of good foundation around them. I can see why I put them in A tier because they have 3 LEC champions around them, 2 times on all of them. They've got incredibly good coaching staff. They have everything they need to be good, right? It's on them now, right? I think everything around them is pixel perfect for them to become and thrive and do their job. It's just a case of can they? So to me, I'm on the fence of A and B. I'm like, well, they can do it. Do I trust them? I don't want to trust them yet. Now, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on the team, but when I look at G2, they have a fallback. You just said it. If their bot lane is dying or the bot lane's losing, whatever, their top side's going to carry, dude. I don't see that in Mad Lions. I don't really know who's going to carry. Is it Armut? Is Armut going to be the one to just be like, you know what? I'll do it. Don't worry, guys.
I think you're right. Jungle. It has, short of a carry jungle meta, I think it has to be Reeker. And I think that's what's scary. I mean, you could bet on Unforgiven, but that's like, I believe Reeker will be good because he's in the MAC training environment and he was good. Unforgiven showed promise, yes, but just doesn't have anywhere near the amount of success or time that a player like Reeker has had. So,
I think when a team is S and A tier, it feels like they're always going to have someone's going to step up. They'll be fine. They might lose games, but when they win games and they're in dire straits or they're in tough times, they'll fall back on someone. So that's why I thought B tier. No, you can tell.
No, I think you're right. No, I think it's a really good point. I think I was letting my belief in, again, the Mac development system, which I think is justified. Cloud me from the fact that you're right, that like if these two players were playing bot lane and let's say Kaiser was the all-star mid laner, this would be a much easier sell. But because they're in two of the roles where like if you underperform, it's really notable. It's really noticeable. Like, you cannot. It's really hard to win a game with these two roles underperforming, especially unless like top lane is hyper carry meta, which like wouldn't even fit Armut anyway. Yeah, and especially with range support bot lane meta, where Kaiser is like this huge playmaker. I think you're right, dude. I think it's hard to. I'm ready to be wrong.
I think the beauty of our tier list, Drakos, is there's a chance for a lot of these teams to go up a tier. Like G2 could probably push an S tier. Mad Rogue could probably push an A tier. Misfits definitely could push a B A tier, right? So there's room for these teams to go up, but we don't want to put them there just yet because it's just impossible to say, right? It's like you can look at players, you can look at stats, you can look at their previous games, but team dynamic, environment change, rookies on the LEC, it's really hard to just kind of be like, yep, that's going to happen. So I think giving them the benefit of the doubt / give them room to just show it first rather than just be like, yeah, and have those expectations on their shoulders. I think that's a pretty safe list.
Yeah. And remember,
we don't have that bold prediction though, like SK's A tier,
I mean, yeah, probably because that'd be crazy. I mean, we could do it, but we'd just be throwing darts at a board for YouTube clicks. You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe it.
I reckon we could bump Mad to A and bump Misfits to B, I think, if we wanted to, proper send it.
No, I think we're good. I think this is reasonable. Okay. And I'll say, as always, that when you're doing analysis like this, like trying to, it's an art as much as it is a science. There's so many variables. It's like predicting teams who are going to do well at Worlds. You don't know how these players are going to perform on this stage. And I'll say that if you believe in some of these teams, good on you. But I doubt you have any more evidence than we do to believe that they'll work together, because no, there is not a lot of evidence when you talk about
unless
teams.
You know their scrim results.
And even then, every time we do that, it turns out to be the opposite of what will happen on stage.
Yeah, I remember once in 2020.
I just want to do this over and over again.
Yeah,
sorry.
2020, end of 2019, 2020 spring, preseason scrims. We scrimmed Mad Lions with their new roster of cars, humanoids, when I was on Excel, and I think we 5-0'd them, and everyone was like, "Wow, this roster is gonna be terrible." Lo and behold, they are insanely good.
Yeah, turns out stage is different. All right, last things. There's one thing that we have to do. There are technically two things, but I'm going to save us predicting MVP for the season as a week 1 overreaction for next episode. We're going to predict MVP of the season. Maybe we'll put some stakes on it, but there's one important thing that we have to do. Bets are back because we're probably going to be able to see each other at some point. This is the Excel bet. The question is, do Excel make playoffs? Do you want to pick a side, or do you want to hear the stakes first?
Yeah, I pick a side. XL will make playoffs.
Okay, I'll pick XL won't make playoffs. Here's the deal. The loser has to dress up in an XL costume, which will be giant cardboard letters XL, do a dance, and sing the XL song. Drakos, what's the XL song, you might ask? The XL song is a 30-second... No. It's a 30-second song to be written by me and you that's as of yet unwritten. If XL make playoffs... It's an apology song where I will sing an apology to Excel and talk about how great they are. If Excel miss playoffs, you're going to apologize for ever believing in Excel while dancing in the Excel costume. I'll take any genre suggestions anyone has.
Is it on the EUphoria?
EUphoria. We could film it with a phone video. I don't want to commit production resources because we didn't really get this approved yet, but it will happen. Maybe on broadcast. Maybe you can sing it to Excel. Maybe a Ready Check segment, but it will be filmed and it will be shared to the world.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I'm sold. All right.
Yep. You believe in Excel. I believe they're not going to do it. The meme will stay alive. Anywho, that is our tier list. Quick recap. S tier, Vitality and Fnatic. A tier, G2 Esports. B tier, XL, Rogue, Mad Lions. C tier, BDS, SK Gaming, Misfits Gaming, and D tier, Astralis. Now, if you at any point during this podcast struggled to follow along with that tier list, there should be graphics released on Twitter. Sorry, we probably could have verbally shouted it out a few more times. Rookies to this whole podcast thing. We're just getting used to it. But in the meantime,
I'm so rusty. Brain fog.
Starting Friday, 5 p.m. Ready Check Central European Time. This has been EUphoria Episode 1. We're back. Me, Caedrel, all season long. The gang is here. The gang is together.
Squad goals,
baby. And you guys are a part of the squad. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.